Hi, today I'm going to be exploring the sound design teams and techniques for the 2016 film Arrival, directed by Denis Villeneuve, and the 2019 film Sound of Metal, directed by Darius Marder. Arrival is a film about a linguistics professor who is hired to lead a team working to find out how to communicate with aliens that have come to Earth. When it comes to the sound design of this movie, Los Angeles Times writer Josh Rottenberg says, "In a typical sci-fi movie about extraterrestrials, there are certain kinds of sounds you'd expect to hear. But as anyone who's seen it will tell you, Arrival is not a typical sci-fi movie about extraterrestrials." The sound editor for Arrival, Sylvain Bellemare, is a longtime friend and collaborator of Denis Villeneuve, and played a large role in crafting the soundscapes of the film. He said, "The simple approach was that all the sounds in the film needed to come from really natural, organic sources, instead of going to electronic or processed sound." I'm going to play a clip for you of the aliens speaking, and I'd love for you to make a guess as to what natural sounds were combined to create the sound of this otherworldly language. Now, if you just so happen to guess that the sound of this language was made out of a mixture of sounds from camels, birds, pigs, and a Maori flute, you'd be correct. This film went on to be nominated for 8 Academy Awards, including Best Sound Editing and Best Sound Mixing, with Bellemare taking home the Oscar for Best Sound Editing. Next, I'm going to look at the sound design of one of my personal favorite movies, Sound of Metal. Sound of Metal follows Ruben, a drummer who's confronted with hearing loss, and the task of finding peace and connection through the loss of a sense that has meant everything to him. The sound design throughout this film ensures we as the audience never leave Ruben's point of view, as we are experiencing the world through Ruben's ears. Ruben goes through many different points along this journey. A particularly brutal one is when he decides to go against the advice of a deaf mentor figure and get a cochlear implant as an attempt to regain his hearing. The scenes that follow are truly painful to experience, as the sounds are so much worse than his hearing at the beginning of the film, and also much worse than the peaceful state he finds in the second act of the film when he's part of a deaf community.
How about now? How about? Oh, that's bad. Get on it.
This immersive sound design was a very intentional choice by director Darius Marder. He says, "I wanted to use a language of perspective that I had never seen before. When we think of point of view, we think of visuals, not sound." Nicholas Becker, who worked as a Foley artist on the 2013 film Gravity, was brought on as the supervising sound editor for Sound of Metal. Becker says that his work on Gravity influenced his creative decisions on Sound of Metal. The inner world of the suits in Gravity is a little bit like when you become deaf, because it's a world of vibration. It's about how the body receives the vibration from outside. I tried to recreate this experience. What is happening when you are deaf? What can you feel? When it comes to the techniques employed to create this visceral experience of sound in Sound of Metal, Becker said he used 3 different microphones throughout the entire recording process that captured different elements of sound that could later be turned into the sounds we experience in the finished film. He compared this to the way cinematographers often use different lenses to capture images with different feels, something far less common in the audio world. Just like Arrival, the majority of the sound design in Sound of Metal relies on a very naturalistic approach, which is part of what makes the unnatural sound of the cochlear implant in the last act so jarring and abrasive. Sound of Metal also received many Academy Award nominations, and its sound team won the Oscar for Best Sound.
Fellini once said, "In the history of cinema, beyond the evolution of styles and techniques, what stays embodied in films is their human vitality. And whoever enjoys it receives a charge of energy, something pulsing, mysterious and vibrant."
In his quote from Italian director Federico Fellini, Becker perfectly sums up what I believe is so powerful about the sound design from both the films we looked at and listened to today. These films do more than just showcase amazing achievements in the arts of filmmaking and sound design. They also find new ways to rely on sound as a force to pull us as an audience further into the deep humanity and emotion of each story. The very thing that film is all about.